This is the Jillian Grace Show, Vibrational Architect. I teach the discipline of redesigning the internal patterns that shape your love, your relationships, and the life you quietly know you were meant to live. Whether you're moving through familiar emotional cycles or you're a high achiever who senses there's more available to you, you're in the right place. This is where people learn to master the architecture of their lives and release the patterns holding them back from their inner blueprint. Each episode ends with a guided transmission to anchor the vibration we're working with so you can fully step into becoming the architect of your own life. Join me, Jillian Grace, as we pull back the layers and rebuild the vibration you were always meant to live from. Welcome back to the Jillian Grace Show. Today we are going to talk about a phase of growth that almost no one warns you about. It's this moment when you finally evolve, when you finally heal, when you finally choose yourself, when you are architecting everything in your reality and you are keeping a close eye on your vibration, and suddenly the people around you disappear. So this happens not because you hurt them, not because you avoided anything, not because you created chaos. It happens because you grew and they didn't. So this episode is for the person who did the work and then they woke up feeling abandoned by the very growth they fought so hard for. It feels like a punishment. It feels like a rejection. It feels like the universe took everything away the moment you finally got it together. But that's not really what's happening. You're not being punished. You're being reorganized. And today I'm going to give you the truths that change how you will see this phase forever. First, why growth makes you feel alone. Our first truth is telling you that you did not lose people. You just lost the version of you that they were attracted to. So let me break this down for you because I see this a lot in my practice where you go through all of this work, this inner alignment, and you're feeling amazing. And then all of a sudden it's like catastrophe hits in places that you never expected. And you start to question, what did I do all this work for? Where am I going with this? How am I in this situation? And this one is so important to understand. You didn't lose people. You lost the version of you that they were attached to. When you grow, you don't just outgrow people. You outgrew the identity that they were bonded with. They weren't connected to a healed version of you, especially if they themselves weren't healed. They were connected to your wounds. They were connected to your softness, your compliance, your lack of boundaries. And then when those dissolve, that attachment has to shift too. And what you will find in these situations is either the person will also evolve with you because you're giving them the tools and the light in order to do that, or they will choose to stay stagnant. So you have to honor that attachment when it dissolves. It's for your own good. The second truth, your growth removed the emotional glue that held certain relationships together. When you heal the wounds that bonded you to someone, that bond disappears. It's not betrayal, it's completion. And when this happens, it can feel like abandonment, especially, again, if that other individual is so caught up in not seeing their own growth pattern that they pull away as a result of it. The interesting part of this is if you are connected with somebody and you're on a trajectory of growth, then that individual has the option to also grow too. But we have free will. So the two of you would not be connected in the lifetime that you were in if there wasn't a timeline or a frequency option for both of you to evolve together and coexist in a way that is moving forward and enlightened. But if one of you chooses with free will to hit a stagnant place and turns to their karmic intention, then that's going to shift that dynamic very quickly. And it's very important that you have to understand that that bond of whatever it was prior to you stepping into your own is what that individual is trying to hold on to. And you can't go back, especially once you've healed those versions. You have to continue moving forward. Truth three, people don't leave because you've changed, they leave because they didn't. Your evolution exposes their stagnation. Your clarity exposes their confusion. Your self respect exposes their self abandonment. They're not rejecting you, they're rejecting the reflection of how you show up now. And when they see that integrity, when they see that reflection of you being your authentic self, any parts of them that are not authentic are going to become almost impossible for them to sit with. And therefore, they're going to start reflecting that back to you in all sorts of different ways where they're trying to slide that blame back and they're trying to not look at it within themselves. It's important to be able to discern that process so you don't allow yourself to get pulled away and you don't get lost in it. So, why does this all feel like a punishment? Here's the fourth truth: you expected growth to add, but first, it subtracts. You thought that healing would bring more connection, deeper connection, more of a bond, but instead, it brought silence. And that silence can feel like punishment, but it's actually clearing. It's important to understand that this isn't just romantic relationships. This can be the bond you have with your parents, your friends, coworkers, people you've had in your life for your entire life. These patterns, and when you shift, will affect everyone around you. They will affect how everyone shows up and reflects back to you. So, learning to understand these patterns helps you to stand in your own growth. And this isn't a hierarchy. It isn't a you're growing, you're better than them. It's you're evolving, because that is the entire reason that we're on this planet. If we were just designed to stay still and never have any change, then you wouldn't see us moving past when we were cavemen. Everything evolves. Absolutely everything, from our plants to our internal structure, our own DNA, from our technology. It is a law of the universe. So we have to grow, and that's what we're intended to do. But free will gives many different options along that way for many different people. The fifth truth: you're not alone because you're unworthy. You're alone because you're early. You're standing at the height where people around you have not climbed yet. That isn't isolation, that's altitude. And being able to stand in that place and do it in a way where it doesn't affect who you are, who you feel about yourself, your own confidence, and it doesn't shake you into that tribal instinct. And that tribal instinct is, I want to be like other people. I want to go back to have that surrounded connection. I want to do whatever it takes in order to have things go back the way they were. Being able to have the grounded awareness to stand in that isolation and know that you're just looking at a new recalibration of your own vibrational architecture is huge in these moments. And that's one of the reasons I really wanted to do this podcast, because I want all of you out there, and I know there are many of you experiencing this. I work with so many of you that are on this cusp right now, that having that awareness and being able to know you're not alone, that tribal instinct that you have where you're looking for people that are in your rear view mirror trying to find that connection, that isn't real. You can't go back. You will feel like you're climbing out of your skin. You have to continue moving forward, and the world and the universe will recalibrate around you. I promise you. I've seen it so many times. Truth six: the emptiness you feel is not abandonment, it's space. It's space for new relationships, it's space for new opportunities, and it's space for a life that matches who you are now. The thing about that space is it takes time for you to step into it. At first, there's this entire process of pruning where all of this old energy is being released from you. So you go into almost this period of mourning or this period of shakiness where everything about you is being pressed. During that process, that is not the reorganization phase. That is the pruning phase, the releasing phase, the letting go of all of that old vibration. That's the release. Allow it to make space, honor it whatever way you need to, and be open to it moving through. So, next is the reorganization phase, and this is fun. So, after you go through this entire collapse and what feels like a situation of being left and abandoned and alone, and you are on your own and no one gets you, and you're going to have to move forward in a singular way without depending on anything around you, Truth 7 starts to come in. And that's after the major identity shift. Your life pauses a bit. Everything goes still. Your relationships, your desire, your direction, not because something's wrong, but because you're recalibrating. I want you to keep that in mind. It's going to get quiet for a little bit. Things need to set back up. The vibrational frequency of something travels very quickly, but the physicality of energy travels slower. So when things are being reorganized, it takes some time for it to be set up. And this goes for anything. I cannot express to all of you enough. This shifting, when it takes place, can be catastrophic in your life. It could be major job losses. It can be all sorts of different things. You have to have that faith and that awareness to step back and allow it to recalibrate in the way it's designed and bring towards you the people, the circumstances, the events in your life that now match that you. Truth 8. Your external world is lagging behind your internal world. And that is exactly what we just talked about. You upgraded and your life hasn't caught up yet. There's this integration gap. There's this gap in between the vibrational frequency of what's coming through and the physicality of what is allowing to be formed. Honor that process. And that's kind of cool because you could actually become a creator in that process. And I talk to a lot of people about this in my private sessions where they are at that new identity brink, and being a co-creator with that vibration is really cool. And it's something that when you step into it fully and you look back at and you see, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I was thinking of. It sort of gives you this empowerment to know so much about that internal vibration pattern and how you are in control of it. It gives you this ability to have an awareness with proof that you co-created it. And it's really, really fun. Truth 9. The quiet's not the end. It's the beginning. It's the breath before the next chapter, the stillness before alignment clicks into place. Let it click into place. Don't panic. You're not alone. Everything works out great. So, why do people pull away when you expand? This is one of the biggest questions that I receive from so many people that I work with. It is difficult to wrap your head around that because your love grows, and you would think that those that you love would also feel that love with that. And this isn't just, again, personal relationships. This can even be your self-awareness grows and you step into that true meaning of your authentic self, but then all of a sudden you lose your job. So there's so many different elements to this where when that happens, things pull away from you. So your growth makes you a mirror. It makes you a very honest, bright mirror. And not everyone wants to see themselves clearly, especially in a world where we have been fake, filling roles, pretending that things are important that aren't, focused on material things, not understanding the ego versus the soul. We're in the middle of a huge divergence of that occurring on this planet. And that's what we see so much of the shifting that's happening right now, even with the jobs that are going to be available in the future, with all of the technology coming in and replacing a lot of these analytical jobs that are more about how you can be programmed into a certain way. We're seeing the concept of money shift. We're seeing the structures around us shift, everything from government structures to school structures to the medical industry. We are seeing a full recalibration. When you're growing, you become a mirror to what's wrong in that calibration. When you become authentic, the people around you who really like that materialism do not like being in your presence. You make them uncomfortable. You make them feel unworthy, because the reason why they're so caught up in that materialistic world is because they don't feel comfortable in their own skin. They don't feel worthy. They don't have the self-love to reflect it. And when you can be that reflection, you sometimes become one of the biggest irritations that they could imagine. And this goes in line with triggers. I talk about this in my book, Vibrational Architect's Handbook. There is a specific chapter on triggers and how absolutely imperative it is to pay attention to your triggers because they are going to be windows for you to things that you need to look at. So if you get triggered by people, events, situations, that internal awareness is imperative for your growth. You cannot run from those triggers. You cannot change your outer surroundings so those triggers don't happen. They are going to show up as soon as they start showing up. They're going to keep showing up because it means you're ready. So get prepared to handle those triggers in a very self-aware way. And I chat all about that in my book, Vibrational Architect's Handbook. I will put a link to it in this podcast description for those of you who are interested. Next, truth 11. Your boundaries feel like rejection to people who benefited from the lack of them. You didn't push people away. You stopped abandoning yourself. They were attached to the version of you who did. This happens a lot in family structures, where all of a sudden the person who was constantly the one who held the family together, constantly was the one who was helping everybody and pushing everybody to be better. All of a sudden in this moment, they're done with that. And they want to turn some of that energy inwards. And when they do it, the people who are getting that absence from them start to become angry and mad. And then they distance themselves from you because they were attached to the version of you that would reject yourself in order to do whatever they wanted. So they could make a buffer for themselves to either not look at their own things or make their life easier or use you instead of stepping up to the plate. You have to be okay with that. You have to allow them to go through their process in whatever way they need to and not take it personal. And this can also be different scenarios. This can be you decide that you're no longer going to engage in public drinking and you're not going to get drunk and you're not going to make poor decisions. And when you decide to do that, and others who are still at that point in their incarnation see that, they start to look at that as your boundary being a judgment when it really is just a personal preference. And they take that personally because they don't want to move along. They don't want to evolve. And it's not to say that you can't have alcohol or have things that alter your state of consciousness and still evolve. It's the gluttony. It's the overindulgence. It's the doing it so that you can change your personality that is actually a flaw within your frequency that is going to drop down your vibration and is going to keep you locked into old patterns. And I have a whole podcast on this one. If you can take a peek at my podcast, I talk about alcohol's secret side effect or how to become energetically forgettable. That happens when you overindulge in anything, not just alcohol. When it bridges the boundary of it's something that's controlling you or you can't enjoy yourself or be yourself, quote unquote, without it, then you have turned it into something karmic. And people who do this do not like people who don't do this. It is very clear that it becomes in their mind a personal attack when it's not. It's just the universe pointing out their trigger to show them this isn't good for you either. You have to make different choices to evolve. Truth 12. Your new standards expose old dynamics. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unknow what you know. You can't go back to fix what you outgrew. And that sometimes makes people deeply uncomfortable. When all of a sudden you're standing in your truth and you say, I'm no longer going to do things that affect my integrity. And then the people around you bridge that boundary for themselves or step over that line. And you see that take place. It shifts the way you subtly view them. So, for example, if you decide that you are going to quit with an addiction that you're dealing with, let's say that you are someone who smokes or someone who drinks, when you decide you're going to take that self-love back and you're surrounded by people who don't, when you move away from that, you start to look at the things that are drawing them into it and you start to become acutely aware of where the holes are in their own personalities and in their own frequency that no longer fit. It doesn't mean you're judging them, but that awareness is felt by them and they take it as judgment. And this is very, very challenging because sometimes people will be like, oh, this person is so self righteous, or oh, they judge everybody, or oh, of course they're perfect. That's not the case. If you're someone who's done the work and you've healed and you have all this internal awareness about yourself, you aren't looking at people externally and judging them. You were there. You were that person. You know the path on how to get out of it. So sometimes you'll be a little bit more vocal in trying to give them certain tips or techniques. But many a times you understand that it's an individual process and you can't make that person move along when they're not ready. So your objective is really to just stand in your truth and be that truth. And those standards can expose the old dynamics very quickly, and they can make the people that are surrounding you very uncomfortable because they're being pushed to grow too, not because there's something wrong with you. So the new integrated section starts to show. This is the free will pattern, okay? So this can happen in so many different circumstances about these shiftings and changings that we go through and all these different things that we can experience. So truth number 13, you cannot predict who will evolve with you, and that's uncertainty is actually part of the path. And this is one of the hardest truths of growth. You don't get to choose who grows with you. You don't get to choose who sees the signs. You don't get to choose who steps into their evolution. Yes, the objective is for all of us to evolve. That is life. That is frequency. Everything evolves. There's no way that humans are omitted from that. Yes, every soul is here to deepen, expand, and awaken. Yes, growth is a natural trajectory for every human being. But free will is real. And free will can be messy, especially if you have any kind of karmic tendencies attached to it. And that's a whole nother podcast. But free will is a huge part of it. Some souls choose to delay. Some souls choose temporary comfort or distraction over expansion. Some choose familiar over what's true. Some choose to ignore the signs completely. Some choose to resent the mirror you've become. And none of that is your responsibility. You can't drag someone into their evolution. You can't force someone to see what they're not ready to see. You can't make someone rise just because you did. All you can do is what you were meant to do, and that's reflect what you can and hold your truth. Your growth is an invitation. It's not an obligation. Your evolution is a mirror. It's not a mandate. Your expansion, that's a signal. It's not a requirement. Some will rise with you. Some will rise because of you. Some will rise after you. And some, they won't rise at all. That's not failure. That's free will. And the moment you stop trying to predict or manage or control who comes with you, you're free. You can walk your own path without guilt. So finally, how do you move through this phase without collapsing? Truth number 14, don't chase what's drifting away. If it can't meet you here, then it's not meant for the version of you at this time. Let it go with grace. There's no reason to be angry. There's no reason to be filled with negativity. Just awareness and moving forward with your own authentic self and staying true to knowing that you did and you will always do the best you can to be that authentic you. Truth 15, don't shrink to keep the old connections alive. If you dim to keep it, it's not aligned and it will start to suffocate you. And then your free will turn into karma. And then your karma will turn into behaviors that you are not proud of. And then that will create more awareness in your vibration where you're going to architect more lessons that you don't need until eventually you end up on the same path anyway. Your new life cannot find you if you drop back into your old one, and your old life doesn't want you. So you're going to feel rejected. Make sure you're clear about that. Do not shrink. And last but not least, truth number 16, trust the reorganization. Your new relationships, opportunities, and environments, they're already forming. They can't land until you stop reaching backwards. You have to reach forwards. So the more you try to look back and see what you could have done differently, what you did wrong, and you get caught up in that fake narrative, the more you feed something that's dead. And you can stay there as long as you want. Don't get me wrong. But your new life is waiting for you. That new frequency is unfolding for you. It's your choice. And that's what you need to honor your free will for, so that you can expand and you can continue to architect the vibration that your soul remembers. As always, at the end of every podcast, I take the opportunity to give you a guided transmission so that if you are experiencing anything like what we chat about, it will help you to take that energy and bring it into balance and flow, because that's what everything is. It's a vibrational frequency that you can channel and choose to channel anytime you'd like. So I invite you to relax, take a deep breath, have a seat, close your eyes, and walk through this journey with me. Take a slow, deep breath in and let your body soften. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Let your heart open just a little more than it did a moment ago. You've just moved through a lot of truth. The truth about what you're becoming. The truth about why people fall away. The truth about the altitude you're standing in now. And I want you to feel this part in your body, not just your mind. You are not alone. You are reorganizing. You are not being punished. You're being positioned. You're not losing connection. You're clearing space for connections that match your evolution. Take another breath and let it land. Feel the ground beneath you. Feel the steadiness inside of you. Feel the version that has worked so hard to get you here. The version who chooses truth, who chooses healing, who chooses to grow even when it costs you the familiar. You can't predict who will rise with you. You can't control who will see the signs. You cannot force anyone into their evolution. And that's okay. Your only job is to hold your truth, to reflect what you can, to stay aligned with the version of you that is finally coming home to yourself. Breathe in again, slow, steady, intentional. Feel the quiet around you, not as emptiness, but as space. Space for what's coming. Space for who's coming. Space for the life that's already aligning with your new frequency. You're not behind. You're not forgotten. You're not abandoned. You are early. You are ahead. And you are becoming. Let that truth settle into your chest. Let it soften the fear. Let it dissolve the doubt. Let it anchor in the knowing that you are exactly where you're meant to be. One more breath in and then out. You're safe. You're held. You're rising. You're not alone. And your new world is already on its way. Thank you so much for being with me on this journey as we walk through all of the things that are necessary in order for you to grow and step into the vibrational architecture of your own life. My name is Jillian Grace, and as always, I will chat with you again next week. Let this episode settle into your system. And if someone in your life is moving through their own patterns or stepping into their next level, send this episode to them. The vibration you're integrating becomes stronger when it's shared. And if you feel called, liking the show or leaving a review helps this work to reach people who are meant to find it. I'm Jillian Grace, and I'll meet you in the next episode as we keep rebuilding the blueprint that you were always meant to live from.